Welcome into Press Box Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles, along with Luke Jackson and Ross Grimsley, and we are all of Press Box and PressBoxOnline.com. And I start off with a question to not to our panel, to our viewers. Company has the expertise and technology to make your home substantially more energy efficient, comfortable, and even virus-free. Well, that would be AJ Michaels Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis at ajmichaels.com. And also have to tell you that if you are tired of the sports book you're with now because you're losing all the time, or you just want another sports book and haven't signed up yet with Superbook Sports, great time to do so now. Superbook is the most trusted name in Vegas, and now you can use the promo code StanCharles23 to score up to $250 with their first bet bonus, win or lose. They will match your first bet up to $250 with promo code StanCharles23. All one word with no spaces, no capitals needed. Don't miss out this season. Win some money with Superbook Sports and promo code StanCharles23. And that season now, guys, pro football, college football, the bowl season, NBA, college basketball, and some futures on baseball and other sports. Visit superbook.com for the terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. I am joined, as I said, by the old left-hander, Ross Grimsley. He's got the Expos jersey behind him, adorned with number
I do,
40,
don't I?
with
Okay.
number 48 on it. And Luke Jackson, who is number one in the Press Box print world. He's the managing editor of Press Box. Guys, since we talked last week, where the Orioles had spent $13 million on Craig Kimbrell, since then a team has spent $700 million. I heard a stat today, Luke, Luke and Ross, that it's gonna blow your mind away. How about if I told you that Sandy Koufax, in his entire career, well, I got to get this right, made $495,000. That is roughly what Shohei Ohtani is going to make each day of his contract. Is that pretty wild, Ross?
Hey, that's it's unbelievable. But it's the way things are now. I mean, baseball is generating a lot of money, and now with the gambling involved, in it, it's going to just escalate more. It was $11 billion industry, and I'm sure it's going higher. But you just kind of scratch your head. But Otani did the Dodgers a favor by backloading a lot of that stuff, so they can go out and get some other players, which shows you what kind of guy he is. Yeah. I mean, he wants to win, and
he's a great.
You know what?
He's a great guy. He's a great guy.
The Dodgers are going to be in it, and they're always in it. So I mean, he picked the right team, and obviously got the right amount of money. But
Luke, is that the ultimate reason they got the deal done rather than the Blue Jays? Is he could trust, first of all, the comfortability he already has in Southern California, but more so, he took a risk with the Angels that he was kind of young and naive on, thinking, well, I'm signing them. They got Mike Trout and they got Pujols. I'll sign with them. The Dodgers, he sort of knows they're going to be in it every year, and that's where it's fun for a player.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right that the Dodgers have probably been on his mind for a couple of years as a potential free agent destination. And when the Dodgers had, by their standards, a fairly quiet offseason last year,
yeah,
it sort of sent
people conjectured that it was to save up the buckets for this year.
That's what I thought it was. And as Ross mentioned, it seems like this contract is going to be deferred out until like the sun burns out, right?
40 years.
And so, I mean, and that's really, it's not that the Dodgers can't afford to pay Shohei $70 million a year. It's really for the tax purposes. And I wonder in the next CBA whether that's a point of emphasis from the owners to try to fix that so that you can't circumvent the tax the way that the Dodgers appear to be doing here. Sort of like what happened with NHL contracts many years ago when players would sign like 15-year contracts and they were already in their 30s. They obviously had no intention of playing 15 more years, but they do that to lessen out the cap hit. So, and in baseball, it's more of like the tax hit. So we'll see what the final numbers are on Ohtani, but I figured that the Dodgers would probably be the place that he ended up because that's what's made the most sense for the past 2 or 3 years. And Stan, it was always the Dodgers.
Yeah.
It looks like Toronto made a very similar offer to him, but then you get hammered by you get double taxed, and then if you're in Montreal, you get triple taxed because you got Quebec tax, Canadian tax, and U.S. tax. But believe me, I know that.
But I think at the end of the day, I still think that it's not. He's going to make a ton of money. He wanted to play where he could basically ensure that he was going to play in pennant chase every year. I mean,
he's got everything. He's a star in Japan.
Right.
He's a star here. I mean, the money he makes off the field is probably
it's going to
astronomical. So I don't think it really comes down for him. And we know very little about his personal life, but just listening to him and where he ended up, he wants to win. He wants to go and be with a winner. And the Dodgers are always in it. Very rarely, he can bet the next 10 years that they're going to be in the playoffs probably every year.
So the question now is, they came out immediately, Luke, and said, we're not necessarily done yet. We really want another top pitcher. Do you think they end up with Yamamoto or Snell or somebody else, Dylan Cease, in a trade? I don't think they're done yet because they don't know what they've got in their rotation next year beyond, Urias is not going to be back with them. He had the sexual assault.
Right.
Or domestic assault. Trevor Bauer's long gone. They're not sure whether they'll sign or what they can get out of Kershaw.
Right.
So right now, I think they've got Ryan Yarborough, Bobby Miller, and I think Bueller is due back this year, correct?
Right.
So they really need the insurance of getting at least 2 more starters.
I don't think that's a problem for them. They're going to go out and get who they need. And you know what? With Ohtani going there, he wanted to play where there was Japanese players. So maybe he knows something that
that's correct.
That they're interested or they really want to sign a Japanese player. And there's I think a couple other guys, Japanese guys,
including a couple pitchers.
That they posted that they're available. So it should be interesting.
Okay, Luke, thoughts on that? You think that?
I think
somebody else.
Yeah, I think the Dodgers, just like every other big market team, are going to be in on Yamamoto, and I think they would love to bring him aboard to pair with Ohtani for a monster offseason. But as I mentioned, there are so many teams in on Yamamoto. I think the Mets would love to add him. The Yankees are in on that. I know Ross mentioned before we went on the air that the Red Sox are poking around there. The Giants just had a meeting with him. So he is the belle of the ball right now.
Yeah.
It seems like we're sort of waiting on him. And then after that, maybe then Snell slots in somewhere as like as a plan B. Imagine that, a 2-time Cy Young winner as a plan B. But that's how good Yamamoto is. We're talking about a 25-year-old ace who won the equivalent of Japan's MVP 3 straight years. I mean, this is a unique talent.
Yeah, he's a unique talent and uniquely aged for the posting system.
Right.
Boss, is there does a team that would sign him as a pitcher? Or Luke, you got the names in front of you. Igankawa or something. There's another pitcher. I forget his name. But do teams have to be very cognizant of how often Japanese pitchers pitched in Japan and sort of adapt him to their staff and use him in that way? Kenta Maeda is another guy. Who's had a couple arm problems from the workload in the U.S. versus the workload they had there. where they pitch like every sixth day or something like that.
Stan, the way the Japanese have done it in the past, and I don't know if they still do it, but I can imagine they throw almost every single day.
Right.
I mean, in Japan. Now, it's a lot different here, especially now when they're, and I kind of scratch my head. If you're taking them away from what they've done in Japan and been
where they excelled and been successful.
Yes. And you come over here and
you got to do it our way.
Now you got to do it our way. And you see these guys, the guys that we had, I know when I was with the Phillies, we had a Japanese pitcher in AA, and they throw a lot, but they don't throw max effort. Now, and now you're getting another, they come over here, now they want to throw max effort, anytime they throw, that's what they're, but I just don't think you can take them away from the success that they had and the way they go about things and do it here, because obviously here, it doesn't work. Guys get hurt. And I mean, you just got to scratch your head. I mean, you don't have to scratch your head. You see it.
Yeah.
You see it because of the way they do it here, what they want. They want power guys, and they don't care. Honest to God, I really don't believe that. I'll get the most I can get out of you, and then we'll go to the next guy. Because they're bringing guys up from the minor, young guys right and left that aren't ready to pitch here. But if you can throw the ball 100 plus on the guns now, you're here.
So now, in light of the recent, the pitchers, Hideki Nomo, his success, Masahiro Tanaka before he got hurt. Who's the other, the right-hander that the Dodgers and the Yankees had for several years? It was terrific. It wasn't Kikuchi, but it was Kadayo, or I forget his name. But the bottom line is, the kind of dollars they're going to pay for Yamamoto, it makes absolutely no sense, Ross, to then try and get them to adapt to what we do here rather than use them the way they use them in Japan.
Well, let them do what they do because they had success. And why do you want to mess with success? I'll never know. And you see it all the time. We want you to be better than great. How much more can you get?
Luke, a thought on that?
Scratch your head on that.
I mean, we saw him in the World Baseball Classic, and I mean, he was awfully good. And it was amazing watching Japan's staff. It seemed like every pitcher they threw out was a big league quality arm, a guy who could pitch in the big leagues in 2023. So that was pretty amazing to see. And also, it was cool to see how clean those deliveries were on Japan's World Baseball Classic team. And they all have like pretty similar repertoires in terms of they all have a nasty splitter, right? Yeah. And so it just makes you wonder, how pitching is taught over there and how it's different over there than it is here. And the other thing I would say and ask Ross is that the ball is different as well. When they come over to the States, the Major League ball is different than the Japanese ball. Japanese ball is a little tackier, and it doesn't have to be rubbed up with mud. Does that cause an adjustment for pitchers coming from Japan to the States? And I don't know if the size.
Is there a different size to it? Is there a different size?
Is there an adjustment there?
I've never seen a guy, but now, I mean, they're using 3 different baseballs here, but as far as I've never heard any Asian pitcher, Taiwan, wherever, talk about the baseballs here.
Right.
I've never heard them, complain this, that, or the other about it. So I don't think it's that big of an adjustment for them. I really don't.
All right. Guys, what's going to happen now? Luke, I'll throw it to you first. How quickly will this market be impacted? Because everything was sort of log jammed by teams waiting for the Ohtani decision. Now the Cubs, the Yankees, everybody knows that they're not getting Ohtani.
Yeah, I think that there will be some smaller deals in the meantime, like guys signing 1-year deals that aren't really impacted by the top end of the market. But honestly, I think now the market is stuck waiting on Yamamoto, because the agents who have Blake Snell and the agent who have who's another free agent, Michael Wacha, say, right, are waiting for the Yamamoto shoe to drop so that they can set themselves
try and pick
up
their spots
as a plan B, a plan C, a plan D for teams who miss out on their top target. That's Yamamoto. All these big market teams want Yamamoto, and the agents of the other pitchers who are behind Yamamoto in the pecking order want those big market teams as options if they miss out on Yamamoto. So I think that the top end of the pitching market is kind of stalled out right now, waiting for Yamamoto. But I think
Yamamoto's going to make a decision soon.
Yeah, I think within the next
week.
7 to 10 days, I think he'll make a decision. And it's a slow-moving market, man. I think that there will be a lot of big names that end up signing after the holidays. I really do.
Ross, there's a period back when Sid Thrift was the general manager of the Orioles that he bemoaned at the winter baseball meetings. What do I have, Confederate money? Do you think your buddies Shane Turner and the Giants are feeling that way now, that they're getting, they've got serious money.
Oh,
and they've got serious desire.
Right.
Do they strike quickly in this market and maybe get Bellinger and Snell?
I think they're going to go after, well, they give their best shot at Judge. They offered him big money. I'm pretty sure they were in on the Ohtani thing, and it just.
Well, last year they tried to sign Correa and did only, no, actually they didn't. He went to the Mets over them, right?
Right.
And then fell out with the Mets over the medical report.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. They have plenty of money to offer. One of the big things with the Giants is they got to get players in their minor league system, and they got to develop and teach them how to play again. That's one of the problems that has happened over the years, probably the last 5, 8, 10 years, that they've lost the edge at the minor league system, where you had a cohesive group of guys that knew how to teach, and they were on the same page. And that got away from them, and that hurt. So now they have to go out and, restore the minor league system, and they got to get some big league players, and that's and not being able to sign guys. When you're offered, you got the money, so maybe they have to do the trade market and see what they can do. But it'll be interesting how they go about. But just like Luke said, waiting for the next big guy to fall, things will happen, Will Smith went to Kansas City.
I saw that.
Well, that guarantees they're going to be in the World Series.
Yep.
What's it, 5 in a row, I think? Will Smith.
Really?
They got to make a couple other changes too to get there.
A few.
Luke, a question for you before we circle back to the Orioles. Juan Soto to the Yankees. What does that say about the position both of those teams are in, the Yankees and the Padres?
Well, first of all, I want to give you a shout out because at the beginning of the of the offseason, we were wondering where Juan Soto was going to go because we figured that he would be traded, and you right away said, "Oh, he's going to the Yankees." Yeah. Like you didn't have a second thought, like, "Oh, that's exactly where he's going," because he fit exactly what the Yankees were lacking last year, which was a big left-handed middle of the order patient bat to fit into Yankee Stadium, and that's certainly Juan Soto. Now, what does it mean for the Padres? It means that the Padres needed to move money, and that they weren't going to be able to sign Juan Soto long-term, and they needed to recoup some prospect capital, and they needed some big league pitching help, and they found a very willing trade partner in the New York Yankees. And I like Michael King. I think that he's got a chance to be a big league starter for a long time if he stays healthy, which has been an issue for him. But leading off a Juan Soto package, it's a little bit light, and I'm surprised that more teams didn't jump in. I thought that maybe the Mariners would jump in. I thought that maybe the Blue Jays would jump in, but they were
fixated
on Ohtani. So I thought it was a fair package, but a little underwhelming also. So
it's the type of package that Dan Duquette didn't have the opportunity to get. He didn't trade Machado or Britton with more than 10 weeks left in the season.
Right.
This guy, at least Soto, had 1 year left,
Right.
but he was problematic to sign anywhere with the agent he's got.
Right.
So it made the package light for what his
Yeah.
talent is.
And he's already, it seems like through back channels, he's made it clear that he's going to hit free agency.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that the Yankees will have a good opportunity to sign him, but
yeah, they anticipated that.
Yeah, it's hard to get a lot for a guy who is very clearly going to free agency. Now, how does he fit in with the Yankees? I think he fits in quite well with the Yankees. And like I said, he's exactly what they needed in the middle of their order. And if he's able to stay healthy, which he has done pretty much his entire career, I don't see that as an issue, like it is for some other Yankees, like Giancarlo Stanton, like Aaron Judge. I think he's a perfect fit for what they needed, and he's going to. I think he's going to do quite well for himself at Yankee Stadium next year, and I think he's going to sign for a bunch of money in free agency. And I think the Yankees will have a very good opportunity to sign him, and maybe Steve Cohen sticks his nose into that market as well. But that's 12 months from now. So
it's interesting. The two of them, Yamamoto's the first player that they are squaring off against one another. The Yankees and the Mets.
Right.
They so far have not stepped on each other's manhood, or cross swords, so to speak. Let's circle back to the Orioles right now. What do we think of the Craig Kimbrell deal, Ross? And what do we think the Orioles pivot to next?
Yeah, that was an interesting. I think it took a lot of people by surprise getting him. I know obviously he's on the other side of from when he started. He hit 30, he went downhill a little bit, but that's expected. Actually, he he had some signs last year. He did give up a few more home runs than he's given up in the past, but that could be a little different in the Camden yards. That could help him out there. He pitched 71 innings and he struck out 94 guys. So he's still. He's a fastball. He's got that knuckle curve, spike curve, whatever you want to call it, and it can be effective. One of the problems that he had is he couldn't put hitters away when he got 2 strikes on them with any consistency like he had in the past. And there's several reasons why that could be. I mean, when you start losing a little velo on your fastball, you start trying to hump up and try to throw it harder than you're capable of doing it. And you surrender your command and location, and that very well could have possibly been what happened. I did read and hear something about him making a slight adjustment with his arm, which led to some better consistency for him. And I really think with the Orioles pitching people, they could obviously they saw something in this guy, and they offered him what $12 million with an option year, and I think they see something they possibly can help him out because they've done that in the past with the older guys.
Let me pose this before I get Luke's opinion. Is one of the adjustments, could it be, he referenced in his press conference, his introductory press conference, that he pitched more innings last year than he had since 2018. Now, some of that was an injury in 19, I believe, and some of that was the pandemic and then having to build back up. But he threw, like you said, I think 69 or 70 innings last year. Would shaving 10 innings off of that over the course of a year, could that be one of the adjustments that keeps him a little fresher, 10 or 12 innings less?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that could be, especially coming off of, any type of injury. Doing that, but they had a chance to build his arm back up. Now this year could be a totally different year, stronger. But I really think with the Oriole pitching people, they have a knack of doing stuff and somewhat kind of reviving guys' careers and getting a little more out of them than possible. But I'm sure that they'll use him, the way they think they can best get the results from him on a consistent basis. So. Throwing him back-to-back days too often, they would probably shy away, and they don't have to do that because you got Cano. You got guys in the pen that can do. They can close out if needed. So it'll be interesting. He's if he gets on a roll as a closer, I'm sure they'll take advantage of that. But they're not going to overwork him because of the past. What has happened the last few years, but I think he's on the right track and they see something.
Are we all in agreement that this, and then I got to do a quick spot for the Costas in, but are we in agreement, Luke, that this sends Wells for now, depending upon what they do the rest of the offseason, how many other starters get in the mix? Looks to me like Wells will now be slotted as a starting pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, if they open camp tomorrow, I think Tyler Wells would be a starting pitcher.
Yeah.
And yeah, depending, I still think that they have to add a starter, and I think they will add a starter, through some avenue, whether that be trade or free agency. Even if they do that, I think there's a decent chance that Wells breaks camp as a starter because we don't know if John Means can hold up yet.
Yeah.
It's possible that he may very well be able to, but last year, even in coming back from Tommy John, a full year removed from that, he got hurt twice. Yeah. So we'll see what transpires with John.
Let me do a spot for the Costas in. Talking about them, when we talk about free agents, there's always some risk to this free agent versus that free agent or that trade. The Costas in, you never have to risk anything because you know you're going to get. It's like the reason Ohtani picked the Dodgers is that's the reason you should pick the Costas in. You know you're going to win each and every time, whether it's getting the steamed crabs, crab cake, the crab soup, or picking one of their many, many specials nightly from Monday to Friday. The Costas Inn always has something right for you and the folks you're bringing to dinner there. Located 4100 North Point Boulevard. They've only been there a little over 50 years, so you know they're going to be there, and the quality of food and the quality of service is always going to be right. If you ever have a problem, look for Nick or Pete on the floor. They're out there working the Triantaflos boys. Great family, great restaurant, Costas Inn. All right. Ross, getting back to it, where do you see the Orioles now pivoting to try and find that another starter and maybe one more bullpen arm?
The trade market, they got guys that they can trade and get some, a top starter. I think it's just a matter what some of these other clubs do. But I think the Orioles have the guys to go out and get a Dylan Cease or not a Glass. Now he'll go somewhere else. But there's a few guys out there, and there's some guys on the free agent market that bullpen guys. Jordan Hicks. There's some guys that could help out. But the Orioles have with the Orioles they have Cole Irwin is a guy that could step up.
They thought he could help last year,
right? And he didn't really get a big chance.
No, he
was gone in a hurry. He has no more options. They can't send him down again. So there's a guy, Dylan Tate. We don't know what he's going to do.
Excellent point.
He's a question mark that could be something decent, but I think they're kind of waiting to see what happens and make a trade and get a starter because they could really. I mean, that would make the bullpen even stronger. With you put Wells in there or Hall. I mean, they got some options, and that's what you really like to see.
Luke, your thoughts on where they pivot now? We're not hearing a lot from the club. Very tight-lipped. We know they have interest in Cease. We assume they have interest in several of the Marlins guys. You see anything else out there that's a fit for them?
No, just all the names that we've been talking about for the past 6 or so weeks. I thought that you had an interesting concept. I think you and I might have been talking just off the air about a Marlins concept, which was to get a starter and a reliever from the Marlins.
Yeah.
To send away. You said, I think one of the veterans.
I think it was like Santander, Ortiz, and Urias, who I think Urias I believe he'll be non-tendered.
No, they've already.
I think a team like the Marlins would like a player like Urias. They view him as kind of valuable.
So I think that the Mariners could possibly be a match with their young arms. They could use some offensive help. I don't know if you've looked at their lineup recently. They definitely need a bat or three. And so maybe the Orioles could help them by giving up one of their prospect bats. I think that that's a potential match. But if they can't come to some sort of deal, they probably go right back into the 1-year free agent bucket, and which comes back to what you said a couple weeks ago, which was, are we so sure that Kyle Gibson for $12 million won't be something that's attractive to them, in January? Obviously, that won't be an option.
I think what happened there is the money. They view that as what Kimbrel's money was.
Mm-hmm.
So they think they can get a cheaper starter via trade,
right?
And I think that that's on their mind in that regard.
How expensive do you think they would go on a 1-year deal for a free agent pitcher?
A starting pitcher?
Yeah. Someone who they think is going to give them like 180 innings.
I think like maybe 15.
Okay.
But I think they obviously Cease is like about 8.
Yeah, so that's why Cease. Well, that's part of the reason why Cease is so valuable. So
and that's why the guys in Miami are valuable.
Yeah,
either Luzardo
and in Seattle
or
too.
Garrett.
Yeah, they've got team control and they're cheap.
Yeah. How much Ross and Luke? We're hearing now, and Luke, you probably know the rules pretty well. I don't follow all the nuances.
Mm-hmm.
This thing with Jackson Holiday,
mm-hmm.
it now sounds more likely that he will start the season with the Orioles
mm-hmm.
and be sent out,
mm-hmm.
unless he just falls flat on his face in spring training. The Orioles get an added bonus out of that, don't they?
Right. So if he begins the year with the big league club
and wins the rookie of the year
or finishes second,
okay,
the Orioles get a very valuable draft pick out of that, like early 30s, like right after the traditional first round.
Right.
That's the pick they're getting for Gunnar Henderson this year.
Right.
So they would have been in line to get that pick for Rutschman as well, but he got hurt in spring training
that year and didn't get in.
And then he came up around May 20th.
Right.
And they didn't get that pick. And had he started the year with the club, they would have gotten that pick.
Okay.
And so if they are watching Jackson Holiday in spring training and they think that there's a pretty good chance that he's going to win rookie of the year or come close based on what they're seeing in spring training, they'll just break camp with him on the team, because regardless of whether he comes up on opening day or May 1st, if he plays really, really well and wins rookie of the year or comes in second, he's getting the full year of service anyway, because of the new rules in the CBA, which are all designed to get the best prospects on opening day rosters.
Right.
So, and I was a little surprised, even still, that Brandon and Mike were as open about the possibility of him breaking camp with the club as they were at the winter meetings.
Yeah.
They were, it seems like.
Now sounds like almost a fait accompli.
Yeah. And now I'm almost thinking like, okay, is he going to play short or second? Because for me, I thought that Gunnar earned the opportunity to play shortstop every day in 2024. Right. I thought he earned that with his play in the major leagues in 2023. So, but that would point Jordan Westburg to third, and that would point Jackson Holiday to second. They might prefer Gunnar at third, Holiday at short, Westburg at second. Now, it's possible that we see both of those combinations along the way.
But you see my point. Nowhere do we see much playing time for Ramon Urias.
No.
So I think he's part of some package at some point in time. And that could still end up being Westburg as part of the package, with Henderson moving to third and Holiday at short.
Yeah. And they've got some other good infielders at Norfolk too. Yep. Connor Norby's a really good player.
Yep.
Joey Ortiz is a good player.
Yep.
Kobe Mayo is knocking on the door too. Like all those three infielders are really good players too. So, and Ross knows this. Like baseball people always say, "Oh, it'll work itself out." Something will happen. It'll work itself.
Well, it usually does. That's baseball. Somebody gets hurt, and somebody gets an opportunity.
The door opens wide open.
Hey guys, it's a entertaining week to talk baseball. And I'm sure maybe next week it won't all come together, but I think something's going to happen in the next 2 weeks.
Possible.
So we'll keep our eyes on it. We'll see everybody next Monday. All right. Sound good?
Sounds good.
We thank AJ Michaels Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis. We thank Superbook Sports, where they've got the $250 match, their first bet bonus, win or lose, they'll match your first bet $250 with the promo code Stan Charles 23 or Glenn Clark 23. And of course, we thank our staple in our sponsor list, and that does it for all of us. For Luke Jackson, the old left-hander Ross Grimsley, I'm Stan the Fan, and we'll see you down the road pretty soon.